Hello. If you're new here, my name is Claire Luxton and I am a full-time contemporary artist. If you already know that, hi, welcome back. Hello. As we all know, I am a chronic procrastinator at filming these videos. I think that there are a number of incredibly good reasons as to why that is, but I really think that first and foremost, it is because at heart, I'm just an introverted artist who just wants to nest and squirrel away and be in my studio and make the weird, interesting, complicated, to me that is, art. And it feels incredibly vulnerable to expose that part of myself, the imperfect part, the messy part, the complicated part. I think the other reason, which is completely linked to that, is that I'm always waiting for the perfect video format. I think often I enjoy voiceovering my own videos because there's a certain level of like protection and detachment from there. But I really find that the videos that I love the most, the long format content that I love the most, is when people really are showing up authentically. But I think that is just one of the hardest things to do, and I put all of my authenticity and all my vulnerability into my artwork, and I also want to show up in the same way in how I share my practice, but I don't find that that comes naturally to me. I want to share the polished, finished perfection, and the messy bit where the art's really happening. I find that's a little bit harder to share. So I think that it's also, I'm always waiting for the studio to be tidy, for me to not be crazy busy, and like, that's probably where the interest is. And lastly, I think that it can be both daunting and empowering to share your voice. And I think for a long time, I've done that in a really particular way. And so now I really care passionately about sharing what it is to be an artist, encourage other people that they can, to build and befriend this like amazing community of like-minded people. And I put a lot of pressure on myself when it comes to what that looks like. So I had no intention of filming today. This is actually my second time also trying to film this video today. When I tried to be spontaneous, my mic wasn't charged and I sat and spoke to you for a good long while with no audio. And my husband will find that incredibly hilarious because I am terrible at charging things. When I work with a lot of electrical items, can be a little bit of a failure on my part. So I think anyone who was new at the start of this video has probably left already from this ramble, but it is a really busy time in the studio. My print drop went live a few days ago, which I actually haven't shared on here yet. As you'll know, if you do follow my work already, I don't really do prints. I know I normally only ever do one-of-one original artworks, or a very like limited collector's edition, which will be sort of like 1 of 3 at maximum. And they're normally like this piece behind me, ever present. They're quite large, they're on aluminium, and then they're oak framed. And that's normally how I've shared my work if it's not a public art installation. So I really wanted to do this print drop because obviously it's at a different price point, and I remember being a young collector and wanting that kind of like entry point into like, oh, like, you know, I can't collect artwork, it's not for me, but it's for everybody. And I really want art to be for everyone. That's why I do my public art installations. So that's free, that people can access. And obviously this isn't free, but it is at a point at which if you are looking to start an art collection, hopefully it's something that might be a piece that you can go and live with, because so much of my work is seen in this little box, like on our digital screens, and that's never how I intended my work to be experienced. And it's so magical that it has been able to be experienced in that way. But like for me, I think art is something that you sit with and that you return to, and that you're able to experience for like longer extended periods of time. Like, you know, if I go to a museum, I want to sit and engage with that work and really think about it and see what it says to me. So yeah, it's 3 artworks. It's Vicious Circle, Cloud 9 and Growing Pains. Each work was made at a time of kind of hardship, change, evolution, loss, acceptance for me. And I kind of put a lot of that, I guess, initial anguish, but then optimism of like growth and hope and change into these works. So the collection is called Come Rain or Shine, and it's available for another few days before it closes forever. It's just a timed, limited drop, but I'll show you those in a little bit. I don't really have a plan for today's video because, as we said, I'm being spontaneous, and whenever I try to overthink or overproduce these videos, I just give too much work for myself. Like, I love filming cinematically. I love filming cinematically. But you know, I am a full-time artist, and I'll then spend, it's just me that does everything, and I'll spend, you know, weeks producing, you know, this 3-second video, well, not 3 seconds, like a 3-minute video for you guys to watch and enjoy. And really, it's probably too produced, and you're not really getting this. I don't know if you want this, but this is what you're getting. And so, with that being said, so other than the print drop, I'm working on a few different projects at the moment that are with different brands. So I'm kind of in the mid stages of 3 projects. And then I'm also working on a personal project, which is something I've wanted to do for years. I don't want to share too much yet, and I know that's annoying. But I think I've just waited so long. I want to make sure that I get the timings right on this. So, enough said. Clearly, I'm at the end of everything. Let me show you the prints. I also meant to say that I took my own advice and actually walked through the farmers' fields today. I've only just turned the lights on in the studio because it is so hot, and I am a summer girly, but I mean, it's not quite the same when you're not near a body of water, is my opinion. But yeah, I left the house super early and took a nice walk to the studio through the farmers' fields, and I actually went kayaking on the river yesterday. And I'm thinking maybe once I get my new kayak, I'll actually, I mean, there's potential of kayaking to work, which I think, you know, I know it sounds ridiculously fanciful, but a girl has to romanticize her life to a certain degree, no, Nespa? So Just a Squeeze was part of my initial giveaway. These prints are in the 30 by 40 on photo rag. We have Growing Pains and Vicious Circle. I don't think I've ever shown you this tape. It's the type that you wet and then stick, but just with my logo on it. And then we also have Cloud 9, also the 30 by 40 on photo rag. And then each artwork comes with a certificate of authenticity. This edition of the 3 different works also comes in 60 by 80, and you can select for them to be framed on the website, but I am going to be playing around with some different, more unusual framing, because like with Ever Present, which is obviously like one of my collector's editions, everything's on aluminium, it's oak framed, and I like the frame to, in essence, become an extension of the object. It's not the art, but it is how the art lives and resonates within your space. So framing is, I'm really fussy with framing. I don't have the frames that I want to kind of play around with these yet, but I do love a big matte and playing with colour. I'm not afraid to play with colour. With Red Herring, I've used the kind of like some of the tones within my skin and hair in this artwork and brought that out. And sometimes I'll take a bolder colour and that will become the frame colour, but it's all about it sitting in harmony. So I really want to do something playful for the prints. I feel like this is a teaser. Just a teaser. That's what I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Teaser. But like these are old like samples, proof prints from long ago when I would just sort of like test how something was going to look in real life, because as you know, when you're working from real life then into the computer and then back out again, a lot can happen within color profiling. So the tests before they become this is like super important to me. I don't know if this is oh, I'm getting caught. I don't know if this is super weird or not, but I do all of my emails on my phone. I think it's because I just want this to be full creative space and this is communication space. See, this is why I voice over my videos, because this is what you get otherwise. Like, I'm not going to script this. This is just going to be, well, here we are. Here we are. Right. And I am quite a in the moment responder of emails so that they don't pile up. Of course, unless I'm shooting or in character, then they can just wait until the end of the day. Hair is up because I need to work on some writing, and whilst I work on some writing, I thought I could speak to you a little bit about poetry and then also something completely different. We'll get onto that. So for one of the projects that I'm working on, I'm constructing 3 new poems / creative writing narratives that will accompany like the actual physical artworks, shall we say. And I think one of the interesting things for me is poetry doesn't kind of come in a linear way, but it is one of the easiest parts of my practice that I find. It's one of the things that like just flows when I just sit with it. It isn't always in a linear fashion. And what I mean by that is I like to scribble. I like to scribble, scribble, scribble. Sometimes it will just start as a word, as a sentence, as a feeling, as a colour, as an object, a piece of symbolism. And from that, I will then build that out. For example, I had this line, in stillness, in stillness, in stillness. And I kind of just wrote that down. And it kind of then became something that I reflected upon. And I liked the idea of the comparison of stillness and motion. I'll show you what I mean, that I kind of like fleshed out this in stillness. I found stillness to be more progressive than motion. It was not luck, it was softness, it was a hum, it was a truth, often trampled by clumsy movements. In stillness was observation, in stillness was feeling, in stillness was creativity. And so for this opening part, over a couple of days, it kind of essentially like fleshed itself out. And that's tends to be how I work on things, but often it is the words that come before the visual. So you'll know with my work, whether it be a public art project or whether it be a portrait or whether it be something I'm working on for a client or a commission, there's always a poem that accompanies it. But often this thread of a word, a sentence, a phrase that I then flesh out and build upon tends to be how the process works. I just need to make a note of something I thought of as we are talking. Hence the hair is up, as I said. And on that topic, there was something else I wanted to talk about. So, as I said, I'm kind of just approaching these videos slightly differently because I need a practical way in which I can show up and share and, you know, help and build this community together. But I am someone who has honed certain skills over the past 15 years of working incredibly hard. And on my last video that I shared, it was kind of a more voiceover, as we discussed, behind the scenes in the studio. I will reiterate, it is only me here. I do all of the lighting, all of the filming, all of the post-production, as well as making my art practice. And on my last video, there was some, I won't go into it too much, but there was some unkindness in the comments. Now, as an artist who's putting artwork out there, I am fully weathered, shall we say, in taking criticism, constructive or not, about my work. But what bothered me so much on the commentary on last video, and I don't know if it was because the video appeared to be quite polished or produced or that someone else had produced it, even though it was just me on my own making this video, was that there were comments about my family who were not even in the video, about my parents, about guesses about my background and about affluence and about the kind of privileges that I have. And I think it's just, actually, I wanted to take this moment just to say I think it's important to remember kindness for a start, but also when you make assumptions about people online, they are probably more often than not incorrect. We all have things going on in our lives, but I come from very normal, humble beginnings. My parents, who are now retired and amazing and supportive, were both teachers, secondary school teachers. My mum taught geography and maths, and my dad taught design and technology. And I think I get a nice balance between their skills and their ways of looking at the world. But I think when you kind of bring into question people's families, especially when you're not sharing that aspect of your life, and start to make assumptions, I think it can be a slippery slope. And I don't say this for, I don't police my comments, I don't delete comments, and it's not about what you can and can't say on my videos. I just think as a whole, thinking about the way in which we act online and the way in which we interact, I would just like it to be a kinder place. You don't have to watch my videos at all. You don't have to like them. You don't have to interact with them. You don't even have to see them again. If you choose to interact with anybody's work or content online, I think we've forgotten, with our kind of the way we're so indoctrinated into the internet and the way in which everything kind of blurs together now, that there are real people living on the other end of the way in which we interact. And it can be really hurtful to people if you aren't prepared. And I say prepared, but even after, 15 years, I don't know how much I'm prepared for when something feels very personal. And as I said, you can absolutely rinse my artwork as much as you want, or you can love it as much as you want. And that's the beauty of art. I absolutely celebrate discourse and discussion, and I never want to lead anyone in how they can speak. I'm just saying, you speak how you want, but I think that it's important to remember that there are real people, and that I think kindness is important. So that's my... You're going to wish I'd gone back to the voiceover videos. That was my tangent. I am waiting for a couple of parcels, one being from MPB, who I'm doing a project with, which is very exciting. I love my kit, I love my cameras, and I have a few things on loan for them, and which I will share, because I am like a kid in a candy shop when that arrives. I'm also waiting for some card and some mounts and some framing options for the prints, which I really want to show you because I feel like they might be kind of semi-controversial, but it's just, in my brain, it makes so much sense to frame things like this. And there is, I say there's no right or wrong. There's personal preference. There's personal preference. Some framing I'm really picky. I'm picky. There's some framing I really do dislike. But I just think it's important to have fun and play and enjoy the objects and the art that you have in your home. So when that arrives, I will show you. I don't think it's going to be in this video, unfortunately. I've been tracking, but they have yet to appear. So I think I'm going to leave you here, and then hopefully I'm not going to disappear. I'm going to continue on this less poised, rambly path, and yeah, I will catch up with you in the next video. I will leave a link to the print drop, which is only live for another couple of days, and hopefully if one of the pieces finds you at the right time, then it was meant to be. So let me see you soon. I'll see you soon.